Lights, camera, action indeed. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Sean D, K.A., TNT Tesla, Tchaikovsky, everybody's here. And Cypher Sniper, thank you all for coming. Today is called September Bets. And yes, I realize it's still July, but September is coming fast. So let's get into the story. Bitcoin is at about 108,900. Just shy, and there's a lot of stuff happening. We have a little bit of Russia and NVDA news, strange bedfellows, a little bit of Dixie news, how bonds are toast, how there's a little bit of Japanese panic and fiat is on edge. We'll look at the Bitcoin ETFs versus gold, and a lot of crypto money is flowing, and also MicroStrategy is raising a truckload more money too with preferreds. And the big story, though, what I'm most interested in is I've been watching the option action for years now. And normally they're pretty good at making their bets. And I saw some very interesting bets for September. And tokenization, new all-time highs, and tons more information. Let's get into the story and try to figure out what's going on the planet. Thank you once again, everybody, for coming. And this is called September Bets. And this is not financial advice, like always. And this is from Christopher Stubbs. I joined Patreon last week. I'm learning a lot, and I'm loving. No, it's from Kimmy9363. That note was off. I'm loving the Patreon emails while unsubscribing to countless other publications. You bring it every single day. Yes, I try bring it every single day. Some days are very hard, but every day is precious for the next 2 years. Until hopefully things, well, will they change? Will they not? They probably will change a lot. Let's get into the ugly news first. This is a weird categorization, but the Russia are now testing a deadly new next generation AI drone that not only flies itself, it is a digital predator that identifies targets on its own. Very scary. And they do that powered by NVIDIA. Jetson Orin, which is one of their AI capabilities, which is just a sign of things to come. The reason we mention this is I am invested in AI and NVIDIA, and it's a shame that now people are finding uses for AI that are kind of a little bit scary. Anyway, at the end of the day, I don't know what to do anymore. Let's get into the bad news, which is a little bit worse, maybe, depending if you're more financially minded. But the dollar index is now below the 200-day moving average. Shout out to Bar Chart. And it's the largest margin in 21 years. Fiat is suffering a lot of pain all over the planet all the time. Fiat is going to zero. But there's other crazy stuff happening as well. The tariff tantrums are back, but now nobody cares. It's a classic boy who cried wolf story. Now the tariffs are up to 25 to 40% on these targets. Big focus on Japan. The deficit, or the actual imports, U.S. imports, about $150 billion in Japan. South Korea, about 131.5. Thailand, 63. Malaysia, 53 billion. And then Indonesia, 28 billion, and the rest down the line. It's funny to see Cambodia in there as well. I know a lot of clothing comes from a place like Bangladesh. And Kazakhstan is there too. Wow. Anyway, interesting list, but you can see the big players are impacted the most. And Japan was invited to the table to negotiate, but apparently negotiations didn't go well. So back to square one again, but the market doesn't mind again. S&P 500 still breaking new all-time highs. But what's even crazier, speaking of fiat being in a really, really bad pickle right now, bonds from Lisa Abramovitz. It has been the worst decade for developed market government bond returns in modern history, ever in the history of the world. And this, because these returns are so bad, it's pushing yields higher. And as a result, the governments have to keep selling this garbage to plug fiscal gaps. And what's even crazier right now, the US, has to issue about $230 billion over the next 5 weeks. That's $250 billion in bonds, treasuries, whatever you want to call them. Who here is lining up to buy them? The answer is not many people. So it'll be very interesting what happens with this market. I anticipate a big chunk of them will have to be bought by the US government itself, eating its own dog food. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. But the other thing that's also fun, we'll talk about in a minute, is MicroStrategy are beginning to eat into this market as well, with some very interesting stuff. And in more terrible fiat news, and the reason we cover fiat news is because it's good for Bitcoin. This is also happening. This is the harbinger of all fiat going to zero. Japan is in a world of hurt. Japan's long-term government bond yields are trading at near record highs. You know why? Because nobody wants it. The yen is one of the worst melting ice cubes out there. Now, we got all the ugly stuff out of the way. Let's get into the good news. And there's lots of good news. Don't worry. Do not fret. First of all, fear and greed is at 64. Not bad. Market is greedy again. That means it's bullish. That means it's excited. And over the last 7 days, since I last did OCTA every Tuesday, you can see a lot of altcoins have actually beaten Bitcoin. Only ever so slightly. ETH up 2.79% over Bitcoin. SOL up about another 1.56%, etc. XLM too. So everything across the board has beaten Bitcoin over the last week, with the exception of XMR and Hype and some of those other names. There's a whole new bunch of new tokens. I don't even know what they are anyway. And in terms of melting fiat dollar terms, you can see Bitcoin at 109K. It's actually down $180 since this shot was taken, but that's how fast things move. ETH 2600, nicely above 2500. 2700 is a key level for that, so watch that space. If Ethereum does get to 2700, things could really kick off nicely, which is good. Now, I'm not saying, I'll zoom out for this as well, I'm not saying supply crunch, but the charts are painting a picture that the amount of Bitcoin supply on exchanges is tanking fast. And remember, a lot of people, somewhere between 40 and 60% of people that actually have Bitcoin, keep it on exchanges of retail users. The big players, of course, they use cold storage. The sophisticated players use cold storage, but the vast majority actually keep their Bitcoin on exchanges. You can see here right now from CoinGlass, we have exactly 2.12 million Bitcoin on exchanges. And many believe, this is the critical thing, okay? If 120,000 Bitcoin disappears from exchanges, and at this trajectory, that could happen in the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 3 months. If that happens and we get to a 2 million Bitcoin level, that's when things kick off. That's when many believe supply crunch kicks in, ladies and gentlemen. 2 million on exchanges. Remember, that 2 million is not available for sale, probably held by retail people that are holding. Some might be at the right price, like 200,000, etc. But we have to watch this very carefully. We are 120,000 Bitcoin away, and it's being gobbled up like there is no tomorrow. Shout out to Econometrics too, Mr. Nick. You can see here the Bitcoin ETFs are closing the gap with gold, and year to date, they've captured just the ETFs 70% of gold's net inflow. And that's kind of the main on-ramp for gold, but the Bitcoin has many other on-ramps as well. And that's a very strong rebound as well for Bitcoin after a pretty slow start to the year. Q1, as I covered yesterday in DCA, has been pretty weak. Q2 has been bombastic, not just for ETFs, but also for treasuries. And Ethereum there, meanwhile, the Ethereum ETFs are still struggling, although they have had, in fairness, a very good last couple of weeks too. We'll touch on in a second when we analyze money flows. And this is the big story, is Deribit call options. Deribit is the top options place for Bitcoin options right now and has been for quite some time. But you can see here a lot of bets are being placed at that $140,000 mark for the 26th of September, 2025. A lot of money to the tune of $784 million in bets by September. That's 31,000 from here. That means a swing upwards of approximately 27%. Possible, very possible, but September can also be a rough month. It can have a big dip at the beginning and then a recovery afterwards. But the most important thing is I've been watching these Deribit options now for 4 years, and the people that place nearly $1 billion in bets for September at this strike of 140,000, tend to often be very right. Not saying they'll be right this time, but watch it. This is the smart money. Betting $1 billion, well, $750 million, that Bitcoin will be 140K in September, which is not that far away, ladies and gentlemen. Not far at all. Call it, was it 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks? That'll go fast, especially during summertime. And in other news too, you can see here, summer doldrums are back, and the VIX is near, the volatility is near all-time low, and Bitcoin options market is echoing the summer slowdown. You wouldn't believe it if you saw these big bets and nearly $1 billion on calls, but you can see here the implied volatility across all expiries 1 week to 6 months is nearing all-time lows, which means we're now pricing in some of the lowest volatility levels since mid-2023, despite price hovering near all-time highs. This shows you, again, we're like a stone's throw away from all-time highs, and the market is as cool as a breeze. There is no euphoria. There is no panic. There is no FOMO. There's also not much retail, but that's a very good sign, which means we are probably going a lot higher. Fingers crossed, we shall see. You never know. Or maybe this time is different. Either way, hang in there, team. Don't lose faith just yet. And are we still in Bitcoin season? And the answer is yes, we are. You can see this is the top 50 performance over the last month, and black is Bitcoin. Literally over the last month, flat, down 0.4%, called it flat. ETH up a fraction over the last month. So ETH for the first time has edged out Bitcoin in ages. And you can see other big names up there on the far left. Some of them, again, I don't. Well, Bitcoin Cash, 17%, very weird. Uniswap is there, Aave, all the blasts from the past. Sky Hype is there, up 5.5% over last month. The steam is running out there. And Bonk, up 34% over the last month. So not bad, but a lot of damage being done to the right-hand side of this. Especially, I always mock ENA, Ethena. They rain down tokens every week, and that's also reflected here in the price action. A lot of people were excited about Tau. That's down 20%. Again, tokenomics are a lot to be desired. And that's all she wrote. Let's look at some money flow right now. We had, again, this is bonkers, 12 straight weeks of positive inflows. And digital assets brought in over $1 billion last week. And AUM is now 188 billion. Okay, really, really, really good sign. Good news here. And if we look at flows by asset, again, 790 million came into Bitcoin. That is extremely good. It is moderating ever so slightly. And ETH had its 10th or 11th consecutive week of inflows too, which is extremely good for ETH. A lot of people are excited, especially about ETH staking and tokenization of the world and real world assets and stable coins, all that goodness. All these things that are happening are very good for the crypto space and very good for layer ones. And ETH is the biggest layer one. So people are going to put money in there as well to get some exposure to all of this. And SOL also had flows of 21.6 million, but the new ETF was only opened for 1.5 days last week. So expect a lot more this week into the SSK Solana ETF that has staking too. And I'm wondering, will any money leave the ETH ETFs and move into the SOL ETF because it has that staking advantage? The ETH ETF does not have that yet. Kenny the Great, thank you so much as well for coming. And again, I appreciate everybody for being here. I love Tuesdays. Big video, big production, always a lot to cover, but I hope you like it too. Now, speaking of staking, staked ETH hits a new all-time high of 29%. That means 29% of all the staking of all the ETH in circulation is now being staked for about 3.5, 3.7% return. Solana staking levels at 66%. So it's more than twice what ETH is at, but the reward is nearly 8% as well for staking SOL, which is extremely good. And speaking of staking and ETFs and the SEC from Solana Floor, the SEC has been hurried on by other players in the space to accelerate the process of approving other Solana ETF applications. No idea really why Rex got theirs approved so fast. Maybe they had their so-called proverbial stuff together. But either way, the other 8 need to come fit, fast, and furious. And obviously, got to get all that tied up. Other things that are happening, we talked a lot about this year so far about Alpenglow, but let's not forget about Firedancer. Nearly 10% of all clients, all validators now are running a Firedancer client across the Solana network. Okay, this again, just to reiterate for those who may not remember or are not aware, Firedancer is a completely written protocol, Solana on C++. And that means any errors that could have existed in the legacy code written in Rust, etc., is not going to pass through, which also means no more outages for Solana. Okay. So if something were to happen, there was a very busy time, a huge crunch, 10% of validators will still be up and running. So again, those who say, oh, Solana, it goes down all the time. Well, that hasn't happened in a year and a half, and it'll probably never happen again. That's why we care about this. And this is slowly being adopted by more and more players. Let's talk about stocks and MicroStrategy for a minute too. Fear and greed for Stonks is at 75%, which is way higher than crypto, which is unusual. Normally they're stocks, fear and greed is a little less than crypto. But anyway, we'll see what happens next. And this is a good and bad piece of news. I was a bit torn whether I should place this here or elsewhere. But you can see a great chart. Shout out to Sanjay as well from Zero Hedge. This is how stocks are as a share of household assets in the United States, making up 49%. If you look at other countries like Japan, 13%, UK, only 10%, except for all the Brits and the Europeans who are watching this channel. I know you all have a lot of stocks. I know you all own MicroStrategy and NVDA and a little bit of Tesla. And did I say MicroStrategy? Yeah, everything else. So, but most of your country people do not own a lot of stocks, and that's crazy. And one of the ways to get ahead is to own stocks, especially disruption. And that's how all the richest people in the world all have a lot of stock in disruptive companies. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's just the formula for success. So get some hard assets, get some stocks in your portfolio. And I hope the rest of these countries catch up. Now, stocks over the last 7 days, NVIDIA up 2%, Apple 1.46%. Apple just lost their head of AI to Meta. Meta is spending money like water to acquire as much AI talent as they can. They whacked their whole team, and now they're trying to pilfer people from other places like ChatGPT and Apple and XAI and others. They're not so successful with XAI. But anyway, if you are an AI expert, you can get $100 million signing bonus by just joining Meta. It's bonk. I remember signing bonuses used to be like 10 grand or, if you're good, 50 grand, maybe 100 grand. Now it's $100 million to sign on to a company. You could leave 12 weeks later and just keep the $100 million. It's just, that's how big AI is. These signing bonuses in the history of the world have never been anywhere near this high. So if you have AI skills and you want $100 million, that's how to get rich quick. Madness. Anyway, the big point of this chart, though, is very interesting, is Tesla is up 0.53% over the last 7 days after all that's happened over the weekend. And it still continues to happen. So I'm not going to touch that hot potato, except for maybe a little bit in a minute. But let's get on to the tokenization of everything, because this is the convergence of stocks and crypto, and it's fantastic from solid intel. Robinhood has begun discussions with regulators regarding tokenized shares, because when shares are tokenized, that's it. We will never sleep again. We'll be trading 24/7. We'll be perping stocks 24/7. We'll be able to hedge things 24/7. We'll be able to react to news 24/7. And people in foreign countries that don't have access to certain stocks, like IBIT in the UK, will be able to access IBIT, and regulators won't be able to do diddly about it, which is also great. This is the democratization of finance, and it's a wonderful thing to see. Very happy about all of this. And if that weren't enough, Solana, by the way, just hit a new all-time high on of tokenized real-world assets. It surged to over $418 million worth, nearly $500 million. Again, it's only really started in earnest a few days ago. Growth is up over 150% over the past 3 months. And there's now 53,000 people trading tokenized stocks on Solana. And that's up over 600% in the past 30 days. This is happening fast, very fast, growing very quickly. And they now have only, by the way, only 79 real-world assets. And they're all mostly stocks like Tesla, NVDA, etc. But this is changing so fast. And everybody's coming at it from all angles too. Not just the crypto side, but also the TradFi side and the FinTech side. Speaking of FinTech, slotting this one in here, this is from our friends at Milk Road. This is how absolutely powerful stablecoins are. This is Tether versus all the FinTechs, monthly transfer volume in billions. That is 1,000 billion, which is $1 trillion. That's how much Tether moves around every single month. $1 trillion. I need to do the Austin Powers thing because I learned the name now. The guy in the film, the guy in the meme. I know most of my film stuff from GIFs, actually, by the way, not from watching movies. But that's $1 trillion. PayPal, 140 billion. Zelle, 83 billion. Stripe, 117 billion. Revolut, for our friends in Europe, 108 billion. Venmo, 26 billion. It's amazing how Zelle came from obscurity and now trounced Venmo as well. And Western Union, the old horse and carriage, is dying a slow death. And that will be completely disrupted and destroyed by crypto. No doubt about that. So again, lots of destruction, creative destruction happening too. Now, let's talk a bit more about money and stocks. This is how much value is added by MicroStrategy just in Q2 2025. $21 billion of digital asset value. And you can see here how their Bitcoin count has changed. They added nearly 70,000 Bitcoin, and how the price has gone up, and the market cap, and the billions that have gone up as well. Absolutely crazy time, and that's going to reflect very nicely in their earnings report for Q2. It'll be a company that had a market cap of about $1 billion. Now they're doing literally, technically, depending on how you value it, somewhere between 12 and $21 billion in unrealized gains in the space of 12 weeks. Okay? $1 billion a week. And the market cap was only $1 billion 5 years ago. Think about that. It's just been the most amazing finance story, at least, of my life. Anyhow, speaking of MicroStrategy as well, they're doing another round, $4.2 billion in their stride. They're going to take everything in their stride. I love that name. And 4.2 billion could buy a truckload of Bitcoin, maybe another 42,000 Bitcoin. And this stride thing, if they can get Bitcoin at 100 grand, that's 42,000 Bitcoin worth. You can see here, stride has near unlimited demand, because what a lot of people miss is basically they're meeting the market demand, where a lot of companies are mandated to buy things like treasuries, things like bonds. That's why the bond market exists. That's why it's worth $320 trillion. But most investors still don't understand how Bitcoin works, and how Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy is going after this capital basis with a much higher return. If you're used to 3.8%, 4% on your treasury bond, and all of a sudden you can get 10% from stride, you're doing yourself a favor by not allocating to this. And that's why they can easily sell $4.2 billion of this in short order, take that income from selling those stride preferred shares, and buy 42,000 Bitcoin. These companies are redirecting capital flow, issuing securities that channel funds from traditional assets into Bitcoin indirectly, because many of them think they're just buying bonds or treasury type lookalike products. This is yet another infinite money glitch. Happy to be part of it and witness it too. Now, without touching on the Elon kerfuffles and everything else, this too shall pass from Aunt Cathie. Cathie Wood said Elon Trump feud will pass in Tesla. And by the way, this is also proven out because despite everything that happened over the past 5 days or so, Tesla's up, not down. People thought it would go to $200. Well, it didn't, sadly. And I like to finish on a fun, positive note, but this one, although it's a meme du jour, it is actually not a meme. It's very real. So remember this. Share it with your friends and family. A country run by banks will always be in debt. That's why they call them banksters. That's why we need a different alternative. That's why we love Bitcoin. Healthcare run by big pharma will never cure a disease. And a state run by war will never know peace. The war hawks, etc. And a nation run by media will never know the truth. My favorite meme ever. Although it's not even a meme. It's just straight facts, ladies and gentlemen. All these videos turned into Substacks and podcasts, and you get little slides and all the write-ups and everything from the team behind me that does that. Thank you so much to them too. Hope you like the show. Hope your brain got a little bit more expanded. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, Wednesday. Mopbots is here. Woohoo. Hey, Mopbots. And American Beijing. The whole team is here. Straight facts. Jacob. Yes, sir. Thank you all, everybody. Be safe out there. Hope you like the show. Have a good night.